That's good. What was the injury that he was coming off of? Was it
That
broken?
was remember like the gruesome ankle injury in the
Yeah.
Florida game.
Don't give me no
Yeah,
ankles.
yeah.
I sympathize.
Welcome to My Gotta Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, an injured John Powell and I talk about what we learned from last week's media availability, some fun facts from the 2021 Georgia Football Media Guide, and finally, we answer questions from you, our listeners. As always, remember you can follow us on social media at My Gotta Podcast. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, 5 stars obviously, and review the show. If you leave us a review, you just might hear it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. Well, at least we've made it to recording where there was some concern. You know, I thought about maybe bringing in Carter.
pulling in a substitute
Go to the bench.
co-host.
So John's not feeling the greatest. Had a injury today, but braving through it.
We picked up a preseason injury.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna be muncening about the podcast. The podcasters.
This was the quintessential. This is the quintessential. Moped type injury. Like literally stepping out of the car, I get hurt. Or Jake Fromm taking a fish hook to the leg or Zayn or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, just a freak accident stepping out of the car, picking up my son from a friend's house. Just twisted my ankle.
I'm glad you're. I don't know. You're able to fight through and talk to
me. Yeah. I definitely am not feeling all that great. Plus, I'm super frustrated with myself, obviously, because we're supposed to go out of the country in a couple of days, and so we're just kind of debating on what we're going to do or how it's going to feel in the morning. It's not really swelling up, which is good. So, but it's also, longer term is like, well, is this going to be something that hinders my, Charlotte trip kind of thing? So it's like, I don't know. We'll see.
You got to make it to the ATD #ATD tailgate that we've been made aware of.
Another party. It'll just be one big party that weekend. It sounds like.
Awesome. So before we jump in, I know the first thing I had was news and notes, but I was just organizing my folders on my computer and everything, and I noticed when I created the new folder to store everything for this that this is episode 34. So this is the My Gotta Freshman episode of My Gotta Podcast. So I feel like that should be celebrated.
That is pretty awesome. 34, the magic number.
That's right. So, all right. So news and notes. We have we have had actual media availability over the past couple of weeks, over last week and this week. I actually went back and listened to it. I read the Seth Emerson articles and such from that, but I went back on the Bulldogs podcast over this weekend and listened to Kirby and a couple of the players. And then I actually listened to Dan Lanning. Yeah, he had some availability, so I listened to that earlier today. But
I saw Dan getting up on the podium, but I didn't have a chance to hear what he had to say, which is not very often that someone other than Kirby gets up. So what did he have to say?
Yeah, I think generally I think they do both coordinators talk once before the season. So. And I don't know. I didn't see anything today about Monken or anything, so I don't know when that'll happen with Monken. But so for Lanning, I mean, one of the questions was around filling this. Who's going to fill Azeez Ojulari's shoes? And the thing that I think was most interesting that he said there was that Azeez had such a good season last year that he actually kept a lot of the younger guys off the field. So I guess I hadn't really thought of it that way. So he I don't know. He didn't say it's going to be by committee, but he rattled off several names. So I don't know. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. It's going to take more than one person to do what Aziz did. But the names he rattled off were Adam Anderson, Nolan Smith, Robert Beal, and then even Trayvon Walker coming off the actual line. So that was interesting. And then there was a Seth Emerson. Seth Emerson ended up like writing an article off of his question to him, which was around like stopping the pass. So just talking about the fact that Georgia has actually continued to be really good at stopping the run and is maybe almost too good at stopping the run or something like that, or that teams know they can't run on Georgia, so they just throw it. And just like the percentage of yardage that Georgia gives up to the pass is some crazy percentage. I don't even remember what it was.
I think it was like 79% of the yards gained against Georgia was on passing plays or something like that.
It's something crazy like that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy, like absolutely crazy. But at the same time, like number one, you've got the SEC, which has been shifting to very pass happy offensive conference, especially with the coaching hires that have been made, the personnel selections, and then just the quarterbacking talent that's strolled through the SEC as well. So
yeah,
there's a lot that's kind of built into that, but at the same time, like I don't know. I think was it Josh that was talking about this where you gotta the yards per play, or maybe this was Mumpole. I think Mumpole was very heavily talking about the yards per play and the type of performance that UGA would have to pull off in order to generate the net yards per play that other like national championship teams have won.
Yeah, I know Josh has like that number figured out, right? There's a certain number that you need to be net per play.
Yeah, it was like I thought it was like 2 something. It was like you had to have like 2.8 yards per play or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you're giving up chunks, so the I think the main crux and kind of like the long-windedness of that was the main crux was if our defense is so astute at stopping the run that there's really not much progression that you could make off of that, then somewhere on the defensive side of the ball in the passing game, we're going to have to carve off yards defensively, or offensively, we're just going to have to absolutely like put up a LSU, an LSU Joe Burrow type season. You know what I mean? Where we're just bombing people left and right.
Right. Yeah, it is the couple of things. It was interesting. The couple of things that he mentioned. So he did. I mean, he mentioned like bringing in Coach Adai, right, for secondary coach, leaning on him, and then he also talked a lot about having Muschamp on board. Actually, he mentioned that and just how much of a help that has been, and how much he goes to him and they talk. So that was cool. And then he actually used like this was our mantra last year for the offense: play to your strengths, right? It's like that's what it's, and that's what he said. And he was saying that a lot of it last year was we had a lot of strength in the corners, and that they would put Campbell and Stokes out there on an island, and probably not going to do that as much this year. So I don't. Those are the main things that I got out of Lanning. And then I had a couple of things that Kirby said that these are real things that he actually said. So the first one was, "You're only as good as your last COVID test." Just it's like we're now applying the coach speak to COVID tests. I thought that was funny. I don't know if that's funny is the right word, but I don't know. That was interesting. And then did you see someone had asked around a question about like all the transfers that they brought in from the portal. And his analogy was, what if you go to the grocery store and they don't have any ketchup? So basically, so he was just saying like you still got to recruit. And he used Eric Stokes as an example of the importance of recruiting and then developing and just really thinking of transfer portal as a fallback. So that was funny. We got out of that Rosemead-Jack-Saint is cleared and is full go right now. So Kirby announced that. So that was good news.
That's good. What was the injury that he was coming off of? Was it
That
broken?
was remember like the gruesome ankle injury in the
Yeah.
Florida game.
Uh, don't give me no
Yeah.
ankles.
Yeah.
I sympathize. I sympathize with us. Let's
That's like double whammy right there.
wrap all the ankles in bubble wrap, Jim.
Yeah, you should. So you asked, I answered.
I know. I shouldn't have
uh,
asked.
um, let's see what else. Okay, so another good one. Jeff Schultz asked if conference expansion is killing regionalism, and Kirby's response was, "I gave up on regionalism with Twitter and Instagram." So
I gave up on regionalism. I mean, I guess to a certain extent I get it, but like
yeah,
still, I mean,
he kind of went on to talk about like, you know, sometimes you can get a kid to go to Georgia, like the whole like staying home and being around family and friends, and he was just talking about like, you know, you can be now with social media and such, you can be your best friend can be, you know, in a different state or whatever, or your close friends, you know,
is
like Hunter, right? I mean, Hunter's in Mississippi, and we talk to Hunter all the time.
yeah, exactly. It's like you can still be connected with folks even though they live in Bizarro Land, Mississippi.
That's right. That's right.
With the Bizarro dogs.
Exactly. Did you so um one of the things that you had mentioned that you wanted to hear more about was the skull sessions. Did you? Because I know like Scene had mentioned it, and I think you were saying wanted to hear more about that. So they did
Oh
talk.
yeah.
He did talk about that. So when you listen to Lewis Scene to the whole interview, he dove in about what that was, and basically the skull sessions are like you talk about like your why, right? So like when things are tough, what's your why? Find your why, and so that's what it was about. So that's the skull sessions, and actually like a lot of them all talked about it throughout their interviews and around how you know team bonding, how much better they know their teammates now through that. So that was pretty cool to hear all of them talk about. Um, when Nakobe Dean was being answered, you know, they went on and asked him like, you know, who are you closest with on the team, or who are some people that you got to know better, and like as he's talking through it, like he couldn't get Tyke Smith's name out, like he like forgot his name, like trying to fumble through the answer to the question. It was hilarious.
Oh no.
He recovered saying that it's just because like he calls him by his nickname. I guess he just calls him T or something, but he couldn't get the wording to say Tyke. So it was pretty funny, like listening to it, because like he's fumbling and like one of the reporters is like Tyke. He's like, yeah. It was hilarious. So that was it. That was
Okay. So the skull
that,
sessions are more of like a team thing. It sounds like.
yeah. So it's and I know. So I remember like with Rick when Rick was here, they would do something kind of similar. Like they would put a guy, they would call it the hot seat, and like someone would get in the hot seat. And I think theirs was more like they would tell a story, like something from their past, to like kind of open up about something. So I don't know, I guess somewhat of a similar concept, but I've definitely seen. I think it's one of the things that a lot of coaches are doing right now, because I've seen them talk about it with Saban at Alabama right now as well a lot. Just talking about your why, and you know what are you playing for, what are you fighting for, you know, what's important to you. So
Get
I guess
into
just for
your
talking through that, right, they all get to know each other better too.
get into your psyche, your inner psyche,
Right.
and
Exactly.
your mental health, which
Exactly.
is good.
Yep. Yep.
All good stuff.
Yeah. And I don't know. I guess that could kind of segue us into, you know, with mental health, right? With Scott Cochran stepping away to take care of himself. Um, so obviously we wish him the best. Don't know exactly what's going on. I've heard some rumors, but won't even speak to what some of the things I've read. Who knows? But
What's
definitely,
been what's been said and deleted as well.
right. Exactly. Good point. Um, but yeah, so so off the field, obviously, wish the best for Coach Cochran, and hopefully he can get all that sorted out, and and get back whenever he is ready. But I think you have to also. I mean, that there's an on field part of that too, right? And so with Cochran stepping away, and we heard that, and then right after we heard that, we heard about Erickson's injury, and I know we were texting, and it made us think of what Logan Booker said, I think last week on the second string, right? Like any breaking news between now and kickoff is bad news. Um,
Yeah. You jinxed us, Logan.
Thanks a
so
lot, Logan.
right. So I know you've been hardcore Munsoning. So I was trying to talk you off the ledge a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, the Munsoning that I have is, I mean, I think we all kind of recognize that having Muschamp around was always like having one in the chamber kind of thing.
mhm.
Like, we've got a guy ready to jump in. I think we all kind of anticipated that it would be for Dan Lanning when he eventually gets called up to head coach somewhere. That we just all kind of assumed that he would kind of slot in, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't anticipate him to be slotting in, replacing a guy that we literally just hired, um,
Yeah.
recently. So, not only that, but I was super stoked for his impact on the team, because the Alabama faithful were super pissed when he left, and they were very protective of him when we were courting him previously. So there was obviously a lot of value in having him on the squad for Alabama, and there's clearly been an impact on our side of things too. So it's definitely a
Yeah. I mean,
bummer.
the
It's
special
definitely a
teams were
bummer.
lights out last year. Yeah.
Yeah, and you hate it for the guy because he waited and wanted an opportunity to get on the field and did, and by all accounts performed, really good. So like you
Yeah.
just kind of wanted to see that progression. So I do hope he gets it together. I do hope that there's reconciliation if that's involved as well. Like
Yeah.
however we get him back, I hope he comes back and is better than he was before.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, with Erickson's injury, I did go back and check. As I was talking about this with my dad a bit yesterday too, and we couldn't remember like how long he was going to be out, or if anyone said. And the school hasn't said anything, obviously, but I did go back and look at it. They're saying like a couple of weeks, and not like miss a couple of weeks of games or anything like that. It was like a couple of weeks right now. So I mean, because I know Seth Emerson was basically saying like didn't really even expect him to miss the Clemson game or anything like that. So I mean, we'll see. Obviously, we don't really know, but it sounds like he could be back at practice in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, for me, the biggest ones, the biggest, like, we weren't losing him for the season. Like, he's basically going to miss part of camp, fall camp, and I think that's in many ways that can be good to a certain extent, which you hate to have anybody go down, particularly. He plays center, right? He's a center,
Yeah,
right?
he is a center. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the one thing I don't know is like which hand is it? I didn't see anyone say that, but I don't know. Like snapping hand or your offhand. I'm not sure.
Who would slot into that position to back him up? Was it Van Pran?
Yes, that's what.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what everyone has said. Yeah,
Yeah. So
Cedric Van Pran Granger, I believe.
yeah, I
He's
saw
got
that.
he's got the hyphen last name now.
He's got a hyphen nowadays. I know we're going to get to the pronunciations, but the it did sound like that he was going to be back. What you hate to see is him losing first team reps with JT Daniels, because as we all know,
Yep.
that center quarterback exchange is first step of the offense. So
Yeah, and I do wonder too. Like, remember last year, like when with the decision of who was going to start the opener, right? So, like, Newman opts out, and then Daniels wasn't cleared yet, and basically, kind of the way we heard it was they didn't want to give those first team reps in fall camp to Daniels if he wasn't going to end up being cleared, right? And so, I guess we'll see here, right? Same kind of deal, like. Any time out is time missed, repping in fall camp. And so even if he's back in a couple of weeks, what does that mean, right? Is that enough time to get him caught back up? Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I think didn't we fumble like the first snap of the game last time?
It wasn't the first snap, but it happened like multiple times in that game. Yeah. Like you're like in the Arkansas game with.
I thought it was the Arkansas game. Maybe it was Tennessee.
Yeah. So in the Arkansas game, there were multiple like snaps over the head for sure.
Yeah,
and that happened. And that happened a lot last year. I mean, that's like Tennessee game. Like they scored a touchdown on our like third play of the game because we snapped it over Stetson's head. So that happened many times last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a pretty important position for the offense. So I'm hoping that whoever gets in there can get up to speed pretty quickly, and then we wish Warren Ericson a very swift recovery.
Yeah, and that I don't know. I mean, that was kind of one of the things that I was curious. I think we talked about that with Logan, right? Around like knowing who the starting five will be on the line. Something that I'm very curious to see, and I didn't mention it, but I do know like with the practices that have happened thus far, it sounds like there has not been media availability. That was one other thing we weren't sure. So I don't know if that'll continue or if that was just for their first week or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know how much info we're going to get coming out of fall camp if they keep everything closed down like this. We may not know, which I'm sure Kirby loves. I don't know. I think he sees like everything as an edge. Like, if we don't know, Clemson doesn't know, kind of deal. So who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully he'll be back soon. I mean, I would prefer to just have everyone healthy, right? And be able to make the decision based off who's performing the best, healthy. But I don't know. We'll see. May have the hand may be forced there. No pun intended.
Oh, that was terrible, Jim.
Sorry. So, but you mentioned the names, and so like a big thing happened this week and it's something that I've been waiting for. And
it is huge. It's
huge. Friend of the show, Tim Riley, aka Miserable in Minnesota, like tagged me on Twitter. Jim, you got to be excited. We still don't have, because I did check today. We still don't have the Scott Howard pronunciations, like with a little, click on the ear and hear them on the site. But we do have a pronunciation guide within the media guide, which if you're not aware, the media guide is available. It's on georgiadogs.com. You can check it out. So it's a digital media guide this year. They're not doing a paper one or whatever you call it. They're not printing one. So like I was excited, but I was also kind of disappointed because I think I saw it on Twitter. So I knew it was out there. But then I hadn't discussed it with you, and then when you texted me about it, I was kind of sad because I had actually planned like a game. Like I was planning that in this episode we would play the name game, and I would give you like a player's number, and you would try to pronounce their name, and we would like alternate and do it with a few of the guys. And I actually have a list, so I'll give you the list that I was going to go over, and then I thought we could check on it later, like when we got the pronunciations, but we already have them now, and we've already talked about all these things, so we know all of them. But there's some good ones, and there's some ones that are different than what I thought. Right. So the ones I was curious about were Munden, and because his first name is spelled Smael, and so I wasn't sure if it was Smale or Smile, and I had heard people say it both ways. And we can
Smile. It's smile, right? Because it was rhymes with smile.
correct. Or as Tim Riley says, it's a synonym with smile. I don't know if you saw that. Homonym. He meant homonym, but synonym.
Homonym.
Anyways, yeah. Homonym. Two words that sound the same, but they're spelled differently.
It's a little. Is that Mrs. Wood busting out the English there?
I actually retained that on my own. I actually remember that on my own. Okay, so that was one. The other one, and one that we had talked about, and maybe I'll ask because I don't know if you've looked at these. So, we were saying A.D. Mitchell in the spring game, and I had mentioned that one with Logan, and we were curious. So, do you know how his name is
pronounced? Adinai.
You got it backwards.
I can't remember.
So that's pretty close. I was thinking it was Adonai, but it's Adane.
Adane.
So we got Adane Mitchell, and then let's see. Other one I wasn't sure on was Sori, so it's Xavion Sori, I guess. I probably just said his last name wrong. And then
you have the pronunciations there, Jim.
Yeah, they don't have his last name. They just assumed we know how to say his last name.
Oh, okay.
But so Gilbert was the one we talked about with Logan. Talked about, and his understanding, and I think we saw even from LSU's pronunciation guide, they said like it was just Eric, but it is in fact Arik. So Arik Gilbert, which makes me think of like John Smith had tweeted. John Tweets had tweeted out a interview with Arik where they had asked him it's like a video starts off kind of like state your name kind of thing. And he said Arik, and then he's like, I don't even know why I said that, just Eric. And they were like, well, how do you sound? He's like, well, like it is pronounced Arik, but I just say Eric because like it's easier and that's what everyone calls me. So I feel like this is like one of those moments where like we've seen it at Georgia in the past where like guys like suddenly their senior year finally have the confidence to like say like, hey, you've been saying my name wrong for like 4 years and correct everyone.
Who was it? I feel like who was it that did that?
Oh, there's been multiple, and they're both.
Was it Massaquoi?
No,
was it Massaquoi? I feel like Massaquoi was one of them.
So the two I remember one was like late, like back in our day, a bit. So Big Max Gene, that's what I always call him. So
Max Gene Gillis,
right? I thought it was like Max Gene Gillis is what I always said. But like his senior year, he's like, well, actually, it's like Max. It was Max Jean Guillet.
Jean Guillet.
Yeah, and then there was another safety, number 20, Quincy, and like I always thought his name was Quincy Malger. And then like his senior year is like, well, it's actually like it's Quincy Mosier. So
Mosier.
Yeah, so that was how you pronounce his name. So like at least now these guys like, hey, they're able to say how to pronounce their name when they're much younger now, which is good. We should all know how to say their names. So,
yeah, you should not be afraid to tell someone how to say your name.
Right, exactly. So this is a good thing. This is a good thing. But the most pleasant surprise to me, and I had heard Graham Coffey say this, but I didn't realize that you actually said it this way. So I thought, and I think we have referred to him as like Lavasie Carroll is what I thought. But it's actually pronounced Lavassier Carroll. So He is now like my new favorite player, and he has the best name on the team. And he is he's got to be on like the all name team. This is amazing. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm excited about the fact that he has been moved to defense. It looks like that's stuck, by the way. He's still listed as a defensive back on in the media guide because he was running back in high school. But if he gets in and he gets to tackle Smoke from Kentucky this year, then we could potentially have Lavassier tackle Cavassier. And that would be
That would just be name name Inception.
these are the things that I look at. This is what I analyze when I analyze what's ahead.
Dear sweet Lord, baby Jesus, please bring football.
We need football. We need football.
We need
All right.
football.
Okay. Aside from the names, this is crazy. I did not know this. As I was flipping through the media guide, I think it was like the page before where they had the pronunciation before they got to the players. There's a whole page about like the Georgia media and like the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network, right? And so it goes through. You've got Scott Howard play-by-play and Eric Zeier as color analyst, etc. And then there's a little box in the bottom that says all-time Georgia football radio announcers, right? So you've got like currently you've got Scott Howard and Eric Zeier. Before that, it was Larry Munson and Scott Howard. And then before that, although I need a pronunciation guide on this because I don't remember how to say it. But the guy my dad knew of, and he told me the guy before Munson. I think his first name is Ed. I think it's Thelonious. So he was the guy before Munson. Do you know who the guy was? Play-by-play announcer, Georgia Football Radio, before Ed Thelonious?
I got nothing. Wait. I feel like when you tell me, I'm gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy."
I mean, Jim Wood. The guy's name was Jim Wood. What?
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
What?
I never knew this.
Is there a family relation?
I don't know. I have no idea. So now I've got to discuss it with my dad. I got to call Frip Dog and I'll discuss it with him tomorrow. So I had no idea.
What years would this have been?
So they don't have the years in there, but I mean that would have had to been pretty far back. Munson started in the 60s, from what I remember. So I don't know. We'd have to take a moment to Google because they didn't have that in there.
Georgia Football Radio Network. Jim Wood.
This is amazing. I just did a Google search. Georgia Football Play-by-Play, Jim Wood. The first result, mygodapodcast.com. Thank you, Google.
For those specific users running that search, that's good for us. I don't see
that's like it's coming up all over the place. Our SEO is too good. We can't get to what we're actually searching for.
We work so hard on it.
We need a research team. We need an intern.
Can we get ears on it?
Yeah. Trying to get glasses on it. Hold on.
Okay. Can we get some glasses on it?
We'll ask Logan. We'll have Logan. I'll reach out to Logan. He can ask somebody. Well, I should ask Jeff Dantzler, right?
I was going to say, you've got a couple of resources here. You got Dantzler. You've also got Patrick Garvin, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He'll totally know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dog bones for you, Mr. Garvin, if you can come up with this.
We got to have him on. He's got all the knowledge. He remembers everything.
We do. You should drop us a line if you would like to hear from Mr. Patrick Garvin. Yeah,
that'd be a good one. Okay, so I know I like to take us off the rails, and that took us off into like crazy Google searching. So sorry about that. But I mean, I don't know. It was totally random. I couldn't believe that when I saw it. Too funny.
Yeah.
I had a couple other things that just kind of jumped out to me. One, not Georgia related, but like we've talked about, NIL. And last time we were talking about NIL and how like we hadn't seen any commercials, right? We'd seen guys starting their brand. We'd seen things on the socials, right? So did you see that? What DJ Uiagalelei, did you see what he has signed on with?
He signed on with, what was it? It was Dr. Pepper, right?
Yeah. He's going to be apparently part of the whole Fansville thing this year.
He's going to be part of the Fansville. There's going to be other players, right? It's not just going to be him.
Good question. I don't know, but he's definitely going to be there. And then like the article that I read about it it did go on. It talked about like that this stuff is kind of starting to happen now. That it's Dr. Pepper is not the only brand that's doing this. That the big national brands are starting to tap into this market and like expect to see some of this stuff. Which I did say last time we talked. I think I said something along the lines of like maybe we just weren't seeing that kind of stuff yet because the season hasn't started. Although I guess I would assume you've got to film everything now or have already filmed it or whatever. Not going to have any time to do that during the season. But yeah, it looks like some of that kind of stuff is on the way.
Well, there's a couple of things that would be involved in some of that. So from what I recall from working at a large agency in Atlanta, there's a number of things that go into it. Number one would be contracts, right? So whoever these guys have, number one, they had to have found someone that can execute these deals. That not only, basically they have an agent now, right? So it's like someone's negotiating on their behalf to get this stuff set up. So then you've got that, and then you've got talent fees, you've got production timelines, which have all been somewhat pushed back for COVID reasons for a number of things. So that's probably what you're probably starting to see. And so like, I imagine, like you said, there will probably be more of these, especially as like, if the first week of the season you see, Dr. Pepper trotting out Clemson, starting quarterback, and as the season rolls on, you'll see other brands that'll be like, hey, we want to get in on this. You know what I mean? So it's like, then suddenly you're going to see, I don't know, RC Cola or whatever, like come out with someone. And
RC Cola and Moon Pie together.
Dr. Pepper is kind of like the Notre Dame of sodas, right? So like they're not really like they kind of operate in the gray. Like they're not really Pepsi, they're not really Coke, but you see them at restaurants when they're all like, wait a second, is it Coke or is it Pepsi? It's like, no, they're their own thing. They do whatever they want in this restaurant. They do whatever they want in that restaurant.
So now I feel like we need more research there, because that's one of those things where I'm always like, wait, is it Pepsi or is it Coke? It's definitely not Coke. But then, like, is it not? Is it its own thing? I thought it was Pepsi, or is that Mountain Dew? Or is Mountain Dew also its own thing? These are the things. These things confuse me. But Mr. Pibb is Coke, from what I recall. Right? I think that's right.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I believe
it doesn't matter. If you type in "is Dr. Pepper" in Google, you get auto-populated Coke or Pepsi. So
yeah.
Oh, Coca-Cola Company since 2008.
Keurig Dr. Pepper.
Oh, Keurig. Oh, it's Coke in Europe and Pepsi in Canada. What is going on? This is so confusing. See, again, they make no sense. That's why they get the Clemson quarterback, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but it was founded in Texas. Like that's the thing that throws me off. Like, how is the Clemson quarterback suddenly like the poster boy for a freaking company that was started in Texas? Like, why isn't Texas all over this? You know what I mean? Or somebody from A&M. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, now I'm sitting here wondering why is there not a Georgia player, or maybe there is and we don't know yet? Like, is going to be a Georgia player do something for Coke?
So here's what I would say to that is I think that companies like Coke with like, I mean, you want to talk about massive company, right? Like multinational company, like the process to get something like that put out there is substantial, particularly for these large conglomerates. Like I said, Dr. Pepper is, by all intents and purposes, a little bit smaller than Coca-Cola, right? So like they can make some of these decisions.
That seems right.
Not to mention they have the historic ties to the SEC just in college football in general, right? Like,
well, they've been doing this Fansville thing for a couple of years, so they're ready for that, right? Like they're coming up with their new story for the ad campaign every year, and this year they're going to work in DJ Uiagalelei.
So funny story. While we're on the topic of Dr. Pepper. Also a bit of a side tangent, but also a bit of trivia for you, because I don't know that you know this. Do you remember a guy from our fraternity named Trey Tyler?
I do, yes.
So Trey was on the creative team that came up with the concept that is Larry Culpepper.
I was about to say Larry. I was like hoping you were going to say Larry Culpepper.
So
That's incredible.
He worked for the agency that came up with that. I think it was Crispin Porter, but I can't remember exactly what agency it was that he was at the time. He's bounced around a little bit, but yeah, funny little connection to Larry Culpepper for you and I personally.
Okay, I did not realize that.
He also was on the team that came up with the Dr. Pepper like 10-calorie drink or whatever, like that was like the Mountain Man when he like opened the can. It was like,
yes, I do remember that. Yeah, he did. Oh, he did that one.
Ice cold Dr. Pepper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Awesome. I was gonna say like the only other thing. I guess we're gonna do a season preview. So I don't really want to debate whether this is right or wrong. We'd probably get into it when we do that. But the coaches poll did come out, and we are 5th. So for what it's worth, we're 5th in the coaches poll. So.
Yeah, I figure that's probably fair. I mean, anywhere in the top 10 would probably be justifiable no matter what. And, frankly, until we play the first week, like, it really doesn't matter. Like, we could have been ranked 12, and if we came out and beat Clemson, we probably would have catapulted into the top 3.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't matter. And we're below them, which I like, because then we can play the underdog, and we've been slighted.
Just win, baby. Just win.
All right, so we'll get into that more probably when we do our season preview, which will be in a couple of weeks. We've got a bunch of listener questions, but before we get to that, we have a new review. We have a couple of new reviews apparently. I do feel like a big announcement, and like I feel like you haven't really made it as a podcast until you've received a 1-star review. So we've now made it. We have received a 1-star review, but they didn't even leave like a comment. So I don't know. Like if you don't like it, at least say why. I guess that's what I would say there. I'd be interested to know. Or maybe someone didn't have the greatest dexterity and they accidentally clicked the 1-star. I don't know. I can't be sure what happened because there was no commentary. But so that happened. At any rate,
yes,
we have a what? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, please help us make the podcast better. What didn't you like about it? Was it the uniform talk? Was it the Dr. Pepper talk?
I think it was the Arkansas fans that got mad at me on Twitter over the weekend. But I channeled Logan and I walked away and I just ignored them because I don't know these people and whatever. It didn't matter. But I think one of them tracked me down. Anyway, we did get another review with actual wording. And again, you always get the My God, a Podcast, review love. So this comes in from Girly Boy 3, Girly like Todd Gurley. 5-star review, obviously. Title of the review: JP Superfan. And then the body of the review says, huge fan of this podcast, but mostly John Powell. JP is my hero. So I don't know. I get no love in the podcast reviews, but it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I'm also a JP super fan, so I understand. I agree, Girly Boy 3, and thank you for listening, and thank you for the review. So
can't blame them. Can't blame them one bit. Excellent taste. That what you don't know is that I've created all these bots that come in and spam the reviews.
I was gonna say it was Carter, and Carter did it, and it's like it's coming from inside the house. So I don't know. That was my
I don't even know that he would know how to do that.
Well, he is the most famous podcaster in the Powell household.
He is.
Okay, so let's go to listener questions because we got a bunch of good ones. So first one comes in from @dogs_forever, dogs forever. over under how many headsets are destroyed between Kirby and Muschamp. And my follow-up question I do have is, are we talking across for the season or by game?
What was the question again?
Over under on how many headsets are destroyed between Kirby and Muschamp.
Ooh, between the two of them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like total, or are we talking like how many is Muschamp going to do versus how many Kirby's going to do?
I think it's over under. To me, I read this as total. Because between the two of them, how many are they going to destroy?
Okay. I'll say, I don't know. I mean, have we seen Kirby really throw it around? I know he jostles it. I know he jostles it and I know he messes with the microphone because we've got all of his rage stroke gifts that we create.
But I haven't seen him actually follow through and throw it to the ground, right? That's kind of where you're going, right? Yeah.
He definitely hasn't pulled a Spurrier where he's just literally just flung it in disgust on the ground.
Right. I'm gonna set the over under. This is gonna be low. I feel like people are gonna say low, but I'm just gonna set it at 0.5 just because of that. Because actual destruction takes a lot of effort. So I'm gonna set the over under at 0.5 because I don't think Kirby will destroy any. So we're waiting on Muschamp. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I'd say 1 is where I'm gonna sit. I'd take the over on. If you're gonna go 0.5, I'll take the over because I'd like to have said 2, but I think that Muschamp, if you've looked at those pictures of Muschamp in practice lately, he looks like a gentle old man now compared to what he was before.
Right. See,
he's got his glasses. He's got his glasses out. He looks tame.
Well, first he had all this orange that was messing with his head, right? And then he was a cock. So, I mean, come on. What do you expect?
He was just very unhappy to be wearing orange is really what it comes down to, Jim.
Exactly.
But I think it was John that mentioned in our text thread that, man, the guy just looks comfortable. He just looks happy in some of those pictures, right?
Look, he's back to his roots. He's back to the colors where he did his amazing shimmy as a player. And I mean, the guy had fun on the field when he was a player. He's been angry because he's been away from home and he's had to pretend that he didn't like Georgia, and now he gets to go back to normal. I'm sure it's a relief, right? It's relieving.
We had to recall Agent Muschamp. We recalled him back home, and now he's in his retirement.
That's right. So I feel like I kind of goofed on this next one. Next question comes from friend of the show, Hunter Jones, at Hunt the Jones. You can follow him on Twitter. And he asked, can I be on? Crap. We were just texting him. Maybe I should text him the link and have Hunter hop on. Sorry, Hunter.
I know.
We'll have Hunter back on for sure.
There will be a hunt. Well, there will be a Hunter sighting at some point in the near future.
For sure. Okay, so then we had some questions from my dad. You can follow my dad at FripDog on Twitter. He pointed out to me that some of his questions were more Clemson preview questions, so we're going to hold that. He did want to know what is my creature comforts order for him to bring to me when he comes to Charlotte. So I'm going to say a 6-pack of Tropicalia, a 6-pack of Automatic, and then surprise me. And that'll be my order. Thank you, Dad.
No Classic City Lager?
Well, I've already got. He just brought me a bunch of that when he was up here last week. Yeah. I've got a whole creature shelf, but I'm trying not to drink any of it because I have to save it for the season.
Have you not dabbled in any of the any of the special releases, etc.?
I have. I've got a couple right now. So I've got the. And these have been hanging around. I nurse those things. Because I can't get them. So we were down on Lake Hartwell for Memorial Day, and we stopped by a package store on the way home and picked up just what they had. So I got 2 of the 4-packs, like the tall boys. So I was able to get this year's Get Comfortable, which was a collab. This year it was a collab with Sierra Nevada. That is excellent. I'm trying to think of, and then I think I've got Duende, I believe is the other one that I got.
Duende
It's
is
like
a
a
solid.
like a double
it's a solid
IPA or
one.
something like that, right?
Is it? I thought it was. Yeah, I mean, it has the little kind of salsa looking dancer on the front, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's a hazy double IPA, and
Hazy double.
that's an 8%er. I'm looking. I have a picture of it. So,
Okay.
see, my sister just brought me some Cosmic Debris as well. So, Cosmic Debris is another double IPA. It's also very good. I had one of them. I couldn't resist. So yeah, always got to expand the creature collection. I'm still waiting. If you guys are listening, waiting to expand into the North Carolina market. They've moved into Charlotte Charleston, South Carolina, is my understanding. So we need them to come to Charlotte. We need to hit up another fraternity brother. We need to hit up Matt Stevens. So he actually runs the whole Get Comfortable thing. By the way, I don't know if you were aware of that. That's his thing. That's
I know that he worked pretty heavily with Creature Comforts.
Yeah, the Get Comfortable campaign is his whole. That's one of the things that he does there. So
we're talking a lot about our fraternity brothers advertising efforts. Apparently,
Matt, hit us up. Okay, so
they have a couple ones that I haven't tried. Many Voices. There's like a Kolsch style beer that I haven't laid eyes on. And then I think my local shop just picked up some lupulus. It's like a Citra Nelson. It's like a Citra Nelson hazy double IPA.
That sounds good.
I like Citra. So I'll definitely would like to try some of that if I can get my hands on it.
I don't know if we start drinking those and talking about them, we're about to turn into One Beer, One Song. So I don't know.
One beer, one song.
Which they just had their college preview episode with Ludakit, who also loves the GIFs. He's a fellow lover of the GIFs with us, so that was good. Go check that out. Okay, second question for my dad. This is a yes or no question. Will we need 2 get back coaches for our sidelines now that we have Kirby and Will?
I think that is only reserved for the head coach.
Okay, only one. I agree. So we might need 2, but we're only going to get one. Although sometimes the get back coach needs a get back coach, as we've seen. So who knows? But I'm still going to say just one. Okay, yeah. We've got Graham Coffee, another friend of the show, checking in at Dog Out West. Will My Got a Podcast have a free bourbon tasting set up for tailgaters at the Georgia Clemson game? If not, why do you have such an appalling lack of brand awareness? Look, Graham, all I can say is like hashtag ATV tailgate. I think. I don't know. Are we even like allowed? Am I allowed to be like talking about that? Like, I don't know. It's on Twitter, so I guess that's okay.
It's all public.
So that'll be there. I have talked to Graham. I do want to try to meet up for sure. Will we have free bourbon tasting? I don't know. Let's talk to. Bobby Wilson's going to be there, so I think maybe yes.
We will certainly have plenty of bourbons on offer. I don't know. I'm gonna have to like strategize on what to bring because I don't know that isn't North Carolina isn't the area an ABC area?
It is, yeah.
So like the good stuff is going to be harder to come by. I feel like so you might have to import your own, or just luck
Possibly.
out and just happen to be there. Of course, it could also end up being like Arizona State, where you just run the whole place dry.
Yeah. Well, as you've seen from the pictures I've sent you from my ABC store that's down the street, like there's like the section where like all the what you refer to as the good stuff normally shows up and it's just empty, and there's like a little sticker on the mirror that just says like these are all out of stock. So yeah, I don't know. I don't understand this whole buying bourbon thing yet. I'm still at the point where I walk in and I text you a picture of what I see, and I eagerly await your response so I can make my decision. And then the lady at the checkout's like, "You took a really long time. Did you need any help?" I was like, "Oh no, I was texting with my friends."
We really
trying to decide what to get.
We really need to put it out there for a collaboration. Our Ohio, any fans that we have from Ohio, any fans that we have from Texas, and any fans that we have from, I believe, Montana, or is it Wyoming? I can't remember.
I used to go to Montana once a year, but I don't do that anymore.
Also, Utah and Costco in California. Bobby, if you're listening, Costco's in California are good spots because I've seen pictures online for Costco, various Costco's across the country, but it seems to be California. But all those states, Ohio, you can easily get Weller 107. So that's like a pretty decent unicorn bottle here in the state of Georgia. Texas, you can get readily available Weller Special Reserve, which is not too difficult to find in the state of Georgia, but it's still a pain in the butt. But they have plenty of it on the shelf in Texas. And then Wyoming and Montana, John Tweets and I have kind of found that people post some of the rarer Wellers, like the Weller Full Proof and some other unicorn Weller bottles that seem to pop up out there. And then, like I said, California, there's an Instagram handle that's run by a friend of mine from high school that has a lot of followers on it that basically send in tips of where different bottles are. And it seems like the California Costco's and various Costco's across the country get really good picks and really good options. Like Nevada was one that popped up recently that had a lot of good stuff on it, where you could walk in and buy like Pappy for like.
I was saying, 40, so they 50. Have so we're not talking about like Kirkland's. We're talking about like
no. Yeah, like there was one that was posted last week where they just had like a ton of like Pappy Van Winkle and like George T. Stagg, Elmer T. Lee. I mean, just bottles that you're never going to find unless you're really, really looking or really, really paying for them here in the state of Georgia. Yes.
See, I got a lot to learn about this stuff. It's mind-boggling to me. Like I'm used to like, beer and you just, they're in or they're out. I don't understand this. Like you've got to go talk to the person and sweet talk them and get on their good list and all these things. It's just very interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like I've learned new stuff all the time from John and other guys, but I have picked up on it. If you check out the socials, Facebook and Instagram, Bourbon Finds and at Whiskey Consensus, you can find lots of information on really good bottles. Bourbon Finds are mostly going to get you posts on like where to find different things in various states.
I'm going to be down by that one place you sent me recently because Lily's got a soccer tournament down on the south side of Charlotte, so it won't be too far from Rock Hill because that place you showed me that was in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Not too far.
that was one of the spots that I sent you, and for those that are unaware, there was a screenshot of like all of the bottles. Like I mean everything. They had everything: Blanton's, Weller, Stagg Jr., Elmer T. Lee, Colonel Taylor, E.H. Taylor. They had all these bottles just panning the camera over all of the collections that they had. And it was at a store that literally is 45 minutes from you, an hour?
Yeah. Roughly. Yeah.
John and I were like, Jim, you got to go to the store. Get in your car now.
I'm like, that's kind of far for me. But I'll be there. I'll be there in a few weeks. I'll be nearby in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's probably all gone by now, Jim. But that's fine.
Yeah. See, I don't want. I'm learning. I'm like, hey, do they have Knob Creek 9? Like that's the one that I've learned that I like. So,
to put it in perspective, the first time I met John, I texted him. We had been texting, and the first time I actually met him was I had told him about this bottle that popped up at Total Wine, and I said, "Hey, come get it." He said, "I'll be there in 15 minutes."
Jump on it.
And then he ended up giving me the bottle, so that was even better. So anyway, you gotta act quickly on these Bourbon Finds.
Okay. So next time you text me and you're like, "Hey Jim, you gotta go check this place out," you mean like now, not like when Lily's soccer tournament is close to there. Understood. Okay.
Pretty much.
All right. Next question comes in from the DGD podcast. So this is another Georgia podcast out there at the DGD podcast. I know they do a lot of video as well. So Robert runs that. I think they're going to have. They've had Juan Daniels on. I think he's going to be on a lot more coming up. So go check them out. They've been showing us a lot of love on the socials. So I want to return that. But yeah, so DGD podcast says, how will Muschamp being on the field even short term make the defense better? I mean, I guess we talked about that a little bit more. I think the thing, or a little bit earlier, the thing that I know I said earlier that I would kind of jump back to is just like, Dan Lanning himself bringing that up, right? When he got the question around how are you going to improve pass defense, and one of the things he talked about was Muschamp being on staff. So I don't know. I think another thing we've talked about a lot, right, is that Kirby didn't have the luxury of learning how to be a head coach at a smaller school and then coming to Georgia, right? He's always been position coach and then been defensive coordinator for years at Alabama, but he's still learning how to be a head coach, I would say, right? And he's got a lot of former head coaches on the staff, and Will Muschamp being one of them. So I don't know. To me, it's nothing but a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can't see it as more than just a good situation, because he was never lacking for defensive prowess and understanding of how to run an elite defense. It was always just kind of when he got to that head coach level, and we talked about this a little bit offline, was, there are some coaches that are really adept and really skilled at doing one thing, like whether it be offense or defense or defensive backs or offensive line. But just like everybody else in their career, they reach a point where they've got to expand their horizons and take the next step. And, you try it once, you try it twice, you try it 3 times, and then you get older, and now you're in this situation where it's like, well, do I really want to go through all that stress, or can I make a couple $1 million a year doing what I'm really good at and just kind of ride off into the sunset with a program that you love? Like, to me, like that would be like a sweet spot. I don't know that he's going to be here forever, but I think that he would find a niche at the University of Georgia under Kirby Smart, if he can, put it all together. And if Dan Lanning leaves and become the defensive coordinator or whatever, it seems like a pretty good fit.
Yeah, agreed. Let's see. We got one from Jason Huggins at HugDog18. This is a good one. What's your favorite pregame tailgate tradition? Do you have one?
I guess that depends on. I guess that depends on how we're defining tradition. Is it like tradition as in like the universal tradition amongst all UGA fans? Like, what I mean, like the dog walk or the lone bugler, or those kind of things where everybody partakes,
right? Or
is it your own personal? We can answer both of them. You go first.
Okay. I'll say I love to reminisce and talk about things of the past. And I like to yell, "Get off my lawn." So I'm going to talk about something that I kind of miss, that I don't get to do, but was a great tradition. And that was setting up the DirecTV satellite dish at your tailgate. I feel like that you don't really need to do that anymore, right? But back when I was an undergrad at our tailgate, right? We had a generator
back in my day.
That's right. We had a generator, and we had to sit there, and we had the DirecTV satellite dish on a tripod, and you had to hold it and move it. No, hold on, wait. Yeah, it's good. Oh no, I just messed up. What'd you do? I didn't touch it. All that kind of stuff. But we had this sweet tailgate spot right by Oglethorpe dormitory and by O House. It was awesome, man. We called it the grassy knoll. There was a little I don't even know how to explain it. It's basically like a ditch, but it was all grass, right? And we would like park the night before and get all this area, and then the day of, we'd drive all the trucks and everything down in there. It was a good time, man. So yeah, I don't know. That was kind of mine. Just kind of, I don't know. Just kind of like this the setup and just having your spot and knowing where your spot is and getting it all set up was kind of mine for my like I don't know for my tailgate.
Where exactly was the spot? Because I spent many games there because I lived in O House my sophomore year, so we tailgated out there a good bit. And then
All right, so if you would walk out O House, right, and go like from the dorm, if you take a right and go towards like not towards Lumpkin, or no, wait, yeah, towards
that would be Lumpkin.
yeah, not Lumpkin. Left, we went left, it would be Lumpkin. You go right, the road that goes in between O House and Russell, right, that road.
Yeah.
Right. So it was on that road, and when you get out to the road, there's a really small parking lot right there by O House. And then you go up towards, if you went up towards Baxter, you had like the parking deck on your left, and then Russell Hall, and then Creswell's on your right. Right. So like when you would take that right on that road, there was a little grassy area. That's where we used to tailgate. The baseball team ended up kind of taking the area over like a couple of years later. So like the baseball team started tailgating, like, and they were actually really cool. Like we got to know some of those guys or whatever, and they were cool. But then like the swim and dive team started tailgating there too, and like they were kind of crazy.
The swim and dive guys were crazy.
They were a little too crazy, and things got a little unruly. And they got kind of taken over. Baseball team, cool. Swim and dive team, a little crazy. So
the swim and dive team was too crazy for the fraternity guys and the baseball guys. That's saying something.
Right. This is a smaller group because like when we started doing that tailgate, like I actually, God, I don't know why this is like the fraternity episode, but like our fraternity, I wasn't in the fraternity yet. Like it hadn't been started back up yet. This was more like high school people who ended up in the fraternity eventually. But it was like, it was a kind of a different crew or a smaller crew, and it expanded over the years. But yeah, anyways, so I don't know. I seriously always loved. Also, too, like at the time, like not everyone had. This was back, so I'm talking like 1998, 1999, right? Like not everyone had a TV at the tailgate back then. Like that, I don't know. It was kind of a big deal, right? When we figured out how to do that and everything. So that was a lot of fun. As far as like whatever tradition, like I would say the dog walk. I mean, because same thing. Like and when we took it right there, right? Like we could walk over to the dog walk, watch the dog walk, come back to the tailgate, pack up, and go to the game, right? And so I did always love doing that. That was awesome.
Yeah. For me, like the pregame tradition, like I always wake up in the morning, and this is, I guess, technically not part of the tailgate, but it's like a game day tradition for me. Even on games that I'm not tailgating or going to the game or whatever, like I'll wake up and just blare, like I'll just blare the fight song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll just like that kind of goes back to like from when we were living in the fraternity episode, but I mean, we were undergrads. Like that's where some of the traditions started. So like,
that's true.
At the fraternity house, we had the speakers set up, and I remember just blaring the fight song at like 7 or 8 in the morning or whatever. Like we would just get up as early as we could and just blare that in the fraternity house and just wake everybody up. Or in your room or whatever, you know what I mean? Like just blast it, waking up your roommate. I can remember Mooney and some of the other roommates being, "Oh my gosh, it's too early." But yeah, like that's like one of my little personal things. And then, as far as like traditions that everybody can share in or that would know of would be the lone bugler in the stadium when that kicks off. That's like that just hits you right in the feels every single time, and then the video and all that stuff plays.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the funny thing about that too is like that started when we were in school, and I just remember like the first time I saw it, I was like, have I been like not paying attention? Like, man, we've been doing this for how long? And I just noticed it for the first time, but it actually was the first time. Like it just felt like we had always done it the first time I saw it. It was cool,
It's one of those. It felt like it was an old thing, but yeah, no, that's definitely one of my favorites, and I hope that that's something that like sticks around or doesn't get canceled or whatever because of all the different things that are connected with that. But like, I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome, and you get to hear Munson's voice, so always good.
You get to hear Munson, which I feel like at some point, like we're gonna get to this stage in life where like we are gonna be driving that ball forward of like, man, we used to have an amazing announcer, Larry Munson. He used to do that, and our kids are gonna be like, what? Now Carter, maybe not, but you know what I mean. Like at some point, you're gonna have to like carry that tradition forward.
Yeah, I mean that's why I named my dog Munson. Right? I mean, you got to keep it going.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hopefully we did that question justice, Jason. Thanks for checking in. So John tweets sports.
We need to have like a collective like thread on Twitter about like what are your favorite traditions, and then have everybody respond to it.
We can quote tweet Jason's question and go from there. We should do that
after the episode drops. We'll do that.
Absolutely. That's a good idea. Okay, at John Smith, aka John Tweets Sports. He also had multiple questions, and some of his fit more with season/Clemson previews. So we're gonna table those. So his non-Clemson questions or season macro questions. What would your fantasy football team be named?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I would have to like think long and hard. I remember seeing this question.
Do you have? I'll say what my fantasy team names are. I have two, and I'm lame. So one is super lame because it's an ESPN league, and you can actually give it like a multiple name, kind of like a city and mascot. And mine is super lame. I guess I must have made this team like right after I started watching Game of Thrones because it's called the Winterfell Direwolves, and it's like so lame. I can't believe I did that, but whatever. I've left it there. And then in my other league, it's a league. It's pretty much everyone in this league. I think everyone but one person is from my high school. It's like a old high school friend league, and I quit the league several years ago. Because I was upset with who was the commissioner at the time, but he's gone. So now I'm back, and many years ago, my online handle was UGA Mumra, right? And so I like Mumra from the Thundercats. Yeah. So in that league, my team name is Mumra Returns. That was the name I gave the team when I returned to the league. So and it's stuck. So those are my actual team names. Which goes to show that I put nowhere near the level of thought into naming my team as Hunter Jones does. I mean, he's got a cool name and he has uniforms. I mean, I don't know. It's incredible.
The Mash Bills is a very difficult team to beat. I don't know. I'm pretty lame. Yeah. I don't. I'm one of those weirdos that doesn't super enjoy the fantasy football life because number one, I don't have time to watch all these games and pay attention to who's doing what. So like NFL, if it's NFL related, like I don't really get too involved unless the Falcons are playing. So, yeah. But when I have done it in the past, I usually stick with the tried and true. Like it's my handle on Xbox and all that stuff is just at Red Devil Dog. Or Red Devil Dogs. Red Devil Dogs United is another one that I have to do sometimes because
it's taken.
U.S. Marine has taken it because the Marines are Red Devil Dogs or Devil Dogs. So oftentimes it's that name sometimes is taken. So
I'm UGA Mumra 1 somewhere, and I feel like it has to be because I created UGA Mumra and forgot the password. Because I don't know who else is going to have that. So,
and you had to restart it.
Yeah, I made a new one. Added a one on the end. Okay, he does.
So Red Devil Dog for me. So like I'm a huge Manchester United fan. So Red Devils, and then Dogs, obviously. So that's mine.
I have a Manchester United jersey, and I didn't even know that they were the Red Devils. I thought they were just
Okay.
United.
Are you serious? Go look
I
at
had
the
no
patch.
idea. I just learned that.
Go look
I
at
don't
the
do the
patch.
EPL. Huh?
If you look at the logo on the shirt, it actually has a red devil literally in the crest.
See, now I got to go look at this. I don't know. I never knew that. Now I'm back on.
Ay.
Now I'm back on Google. This is the fraternity in Google episode.
The good news is that the EPL does start back up in a couple of days. So we're sitting here, what is it? We're on what, 26? Is it 26 days?
Oh, look at that. There is a red devil.
I told you.
Look, I worked at Aon, and they gave everyone a jersey. I wasn't like an actual fan.
That's pretty solid.
Okay.
But yeah, like we're sitting here at like what, 20 something days from 26, I think, or something. We're 26 days from kickoff, and EPL is starting up in 2 days. So their season just ended in May, and they're already starting back up before college football is back up and running.
Yeah, they do play like nonstop. That is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, this one I don't know the answer to. And this is actually, I would like you to explain this to me. Why is clear ice superior to cloudy ice in the bourbons?
Where was this question? Did I miss this one?
This is from John Tweed Sports.
Oh, John sent it. Okay.
Like, does it matter or does it just look cool? I feel like it just looks cool. Does it actually matter?
So I personally think it looks cool. I think I enjoy it. It gives me pleasure when I see, like, when you see like you've got bourbon in your glass, but there's actually an ice cube in it. To me, that's cool from a visual standpoint. Mm-hmm. But from an actual like drinking, like science type thing, and I feel like this would be an excellent Mythbusters. I'm sure there's something out there for it, or what's the Alton Brown? This is like something that Alton Brown would like dissect. But like
Georgia grad,
basically, when I make the ice in my Igloo cooler, which some of us out there in the Twitterverse, Clear Ice, Fancy Ice world, we buy these fancy molds. But if you are doing the cooler method, the water freezes from the top down when you stick it in the freezer. So what that means is that as it solidifies going down, it's pushing all of the oxygen that's in the water and all of the, I use, sometimes I use filtered water, but sometimes I use tap water, which, our tap water is not doesn't have off tastes or anything like that. But like, allegedly, the way that the science works is that it's pushing all the oxygen and all those impurities that's in the water down, so that when you get to the point, it's usually 18 hours or so for me in my deep freezer, 18, 20 hours, and I'll take it out. And then when you cut it out or like flip the cooler over and let the ice fall out, there's always a layer of water still left in there, and it has all of the junk, whatever that could potentially be in water, the oxygen, the minerals or whatever, the heavy stuff that could potentially be in the ice. That's the way that I've seen it explained. Plus it just looks cool. And then the other thing that I personally enjoy is actually physically cutting the ice, because I can cut it as big or as small as I want. And sometimes you end up with these pretty cool, gnarly looking icebergs. And so you have an iceberg literally floating in your glass as opposed to just some random white sphere or whatever.
Right. I watched a YouTube video on that the other day, and it seems like a lot of work, but as a DIY enthusiast, I do want to try it. So I will try it. I have one of those Igloo coolers anyways, so I'll give it a shot.
It really isn't that much work, and that's what it sounds like a lot of steps and a lot of process, but like really it truly isn't. The hardest part, in my opinion, is not letting the ice freeze too hard, because it gets much more difficult to cut when it freezes more solid. So like I've gotten some batches that I've done where it's like I totally forgot about it and it froze all the way through and I totally screwed the pooch. But I still keep that ice. I mean, I'm not that big of a snob. Like I'll use it to put in waters, and I will use it regular ice for bourbon occasionally. So like, I don't waste it. It's not like I just throw it away and get rid of it. Like, oh yeah. But when it's softly frozen, and I hesitate to use that word, but like, I mean, that's the best description that I can have is like you just literally score it. You can score it for a little bit, and then take a rubber mallet and just like bloop, and it just literally slices it straight down. But when it's frozen solid, you can do that, and it like makes all these jagged edges. It doesn't cut as clean. So anyway,
Okay.
totally geeked
I
out
mean,
on fancy ice Twitter.
well, I may try that this weekend. I may have to give that
I
a
was
shot.
always impressed whenever I went to a bar that had the clear ice, either spheres or chunks. There's a restaurant in Decatur where I first encountered this when I was like a 20 something on a business outing. It was the Iberian Pig in Decatur, and they had an actual ice block, a clear ice block behind the bar, and they would get a chisel and like chisel it out every single time that anyone ordered a drink. And I always thought that that was just the coolest thing. And then you start going to some of these restaurants that actually have like clear blocks, clear cubes, I don't know. It seemed like it was important enough for some of these bars to invest in it that it was cool. And so trying to recreate that at home was actually a lot easier than I ever imagined.
All right. Well, I'll report back after I do it because I've got the mold. I've got the molds where you drop in the mold and it's not clear, but they are cool shapes. That's new to me, so I'm enjoying that for now.
Yeah.
I'll see.
The other thing that I'll say, like when you're drinking bourbon, it's obviously meant to be shared with others, particularly when we're talking about some of the good stuff that we've talked about. It's meant to be shared, right? So, if you are if you are the type, and I am one of those types that likes to have a cube in their bourbon, I'm not a huge fan of I will taste it neat, but I prefer cold beverages over warm beverages all day long. So when you have people over, it is a conversation piece. Like I like to have something nice for my guests to come over to. And if it's just you're not going to get that every house you go to, you know what I mean? So like if I can differentiate myself in some way, hey, welcome to my house. Here's my nice bourbon and here's a nice piece of ice.
I like it. Okay, now this is making me want to do this even more. We've got one more question, and I'm trying to decide if we're going to even answer it. And I'll get to why. But before I do that, there is only one. So if you're listening and you didn't hear your question, it's because we're tabling it for either our season preview episode or our Clemson preview episode, because I did not get specific when we solicited questions, and we got some questions that are really good, but that are more just about Clemson or more about like Georgia's season. So we're going to table those for our next two episodes. But this one I feel like could be an episode in itself. So this is from Fideli's Best Girl on Twitter. What is y'all's favorite Larry Munson call? So I know what mine is, but there's like I've got a whole lot about why, because talk about my why, right? Like my why of why my favorite Munson call is my favorite call. Like there's a lot that goes into why it means so much to me and like why that's my favorite call. So I don't know. I don't even know if I want to get into it. Do you have one? Do you have a favorite?
I mean, my favorite Larry Munson call is probably whenever I describe Larry Munson for people that don't know who Larry Munson is, that are non-Georgia fans or whatever, I always go back to the Lindsey Scott play, like as like the quintessential, like this is the kind of stuff that he would do. Or I'll go to Hobnail Boot because I literally watched that one. Like that was one that I saw live. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
And listened to live while it was happening. Obviously, I didn't get to see live the Lindsey Scott play, but any of the plays that he has where he goes into like just an absolute random tangent are probably going to be some of my most cherished memories. Like
Yeah.
what was it? I don't even know if I've heard this one that you and Graham are talking about today, when Graham was talking about like his
It's a
first
good
game
one.
that he had played to. And what was the line that he used? Like, we beat
He
him by the
said,
skin of the
he said
toothbrush.
we've hung on, we've hung on by the skin of a toothbrush, is what he said. It was amazing. So
See,
that was Texas
literally,
Tech. Texas Tech.
there's nobody would ever say that on a broadcast nowadays.
Oh my gosh! So that was 1996. That was that was actually Jim Donnan's first win over Texas Tech, because I think he lost
Okay.
like his first two games. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I'll say. I'll give a couple. So, well, first off, the Lindsey Scott one, for me, one of the things that made him so great, and if you haven't seen Munson's Greatest Calls, I highly recommend it. It's out. You can find it on YouTube. Um, he talks about like letting the crowd tell the story, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, so the ones I'm going to talk about, none of them are my very favorite, but some of my favorites are ones where he does that. And like Lindsey Scott, perfect example. He never says touchdown. He never says the word touchdown. He never says we scored, anything like that. He says Lindsey Scott, Lindsey Scott, Lindsey Scott, and you can hear the crowd go berserk. And you don't need to know anything. I mean, he goes into his diatribe about breaking his chair and everything later, but he just sits back and lets the cheering tell it. And then with Clemson coming up, right? When Kevin Butler kicked the whatever it was 60-yard field goal to beat Clemson, right?
Is
He
that the
says,
one where he's gonna kick it a mile?
"Yeah, about to kick it 100,000 miles," and he's
100,000 miles.
and when his call, Butler kicked a long one. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! He doesn't say it's good, anything like that, right? Just oh my god! I don't know. Those are my favorites. I don't know. That's to me like one of the things I love about him so much was when he would do that. He didn't say touchdown when Herschel Walker scored at Tennessee when he ran over Bill Bates. He didn't say touchdown. He just said, "My God, a freshman." I don't know. It's such a legend. I love it. I love that he did that. And he said touchdown sometimes, obviously, right? But some of those early on classic moments, he would kind of let the crowd tell the story, and I always love that.
Well, we just were talking about the Johnson in the corner touchdown. My God, touchdown!
Yeah, that was a good one. 97 Georgia Tech was a good one, and that one, sometimes the things aren't even like right after the score. I think this one was like after the game ended. He said that our hearts were torn out and bleeding, and we picked it up and we stuck it back inside. So good, man. I love him.
So those types of calls where he like elaborates and talks about things that are completely like the thing that I try to explain to people is like he would literally just go bonkers, like, and the way that he would describe things is just so like you understood exactly what was going on. You didn't have to be watching it on TV. You understood what was going on, and he was describing it so perfectly. And not only that, but like you felt him and his excitement in what was going on, and especially like the Lindsey Scott one where he's like, "Well, I broke my chair, a metal steel chair, about a 5-inch cushion." Like you could literally see the cushion, like he's picking it up. He's picking up this chair in the booth, and he's like, "The booth came apart."
Like, right.
He was jumping up and down just like we were.
Well, I mean, Ron Haynes, you're like, what the heck is a hobnail boot?
Yeah, seriously. We just crushed their face.
That's amazing. So hopefully that's good enough. I do want to save. I kind of want to do a stories episode about my very favorite call. I'd like to do that someday. So I'm going to hold on to mine. I didn't mention my single favorite, but he was the best, man. He was the best, and I've said it before, and we'll always have to say there would be no My God a podcast without Larry Munson. So
I tell you, for that episode, we need to try and get Scott Howard on because I'm very curious what Scott Howard's favorite Munson call is, because he was there for some of it. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm going to give you a little hint. He was there for mine.
Uh-oh.
So for mine, Scott was in the he was the color guy.
Yeah, he was the color guy.
The color analyst. Yeah, for my favorite. So that's not a bad idea.
Okay. Scott, if you're listening, love to have you on.
We'll give him a dog bone. Well, that was what I had. That was what I had. I don't know. Did you have? Well, that wraps up the listener questions. I didn't have anything else. So
those were some good questions, man. We need to do listener questions more often.
Yeah, those were excellent. Very good. And yeah, I mean, I immediately when I saw the Munson one, I was like, that's going to be a whole episode. That's my instant reaction to that one. So yeah, we're definitely interactive on social media. So tag us. We will interact for sure, and we love the interaction. Love the questions. It's always fun. There's a lot of good people on Dog Twitter. Twitter is definitely where we're most active. We have started putting a little bit more on Instagram. When we post the episodes, at least on Facebook. So, but I'd say Twitter is definitely probably the best place to hit us up for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So I guess kind of scheduling. So current plan is we will be off next week. With John will be on vacation. We hope. Ankle. We'll see how the ankle does. So we hope John gets to go on vacation next week. And then the following week we'll be back for a season preview, and then the week after that we'll be back to our normal schedule, and we'll have an actual game to preview. So the following week after that will be the Clemson preview. So that is the plan. So we are hoping for minimal swelling and minimal ankle soreness for you, John. We'll monitor.
Yes. Just get some range of motion and reduce this pain that I've got in my ankle right now, because I've got to make some fairly quick decisions soon on whether or not we're going to go.
Well, and we did a non-bourbon episode tonight, which I think was probably a good decision for the ankle. So we don't need any we don't need any bourbon-induced incidents to make it any worse.
Yeah, seriously. I'm like, that's all I need is to fall up the stairs or something like that.
I mean, we'll keep me posted, and hopefully everything gets better. But otherwise, we'll be back in a couple of weeks to do the season preview.
Absolutely. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.